Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another weather forecasting discussion. My name is Morgan J. Fold. This evening, we're going to be talking about the almost week-long threat of severe weather coming up, including tonight, Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all going into next week. What the threats could be, where the threats could be, and how much exactly is there supposed to be impacted. More on that later on in this video. Before we do get into that, though, I do ask that you guys like the video if you do enjoy the content. Subscribe if you are new. Turn on post notifications because videos are going to be coming out more frequently, as well as live streams in the near distant future. So with all that being said, let's get into the current analysis of everything that's going on here. So here's the view of the continental United States. There's a few storm systems that we have going on here. One that is just off the coast of Maryland and Delaware. One that's pushing off towards the north and east that was producing some rain and some pretty heavy winds across portions of southern New England and the northern mid-Atlantic states. In addition, we have a new low-pressure system that is ejecting out of the Rockies here. And in fact, if we pause this here and go to the end here, you'll see that the center of low pressure identified in these circles is right here, stationed on the Texas-Oklahoma border, southwest of Oklahoma City, and there is, in fact, a slight risk of severe weather this afternoon for some very large hail in excess of 2 inches in diameter. And if we take a look at all of that as well, if we zoom in, there is a severe thunderstorm watch that is in effect for the Oklahoma City metropolitan area for that large hail potential. So do bear that in mind if you are traveling through these areas, or even if you reside in these areas entirely. The SPC has highlighted 15% chances for large hail across Louisiana, across the Gulf Coast, all the way up into the Oklahoma City area, as well as that threat for damaging winds, although that is a little bit more isolated to the areas of New Orleans and Oklahoma City. And we do even have a 5% chance for tornadoes in the New Orleans vicinity, so definitely something to watch out there this evening as we get into the overnight hours, that there could be the potential for some thunderstorms with some very large hail as well as tornadoes moving through your general vicinity. But currently in the OKC area, all we have is a couple cells that are currently initiating along the front, pushing off towards the north and east, but this one's going to be pushing off towards the Oklahoma City area within the next couple of hours, and there is another cell down here inside the watch boundary, inside the watch area, approaching the border of Oklahoma. So again, this is a very widespread threat this evening for damaging winds as well as some large hail, so watch out if you guys are in these areas as you get into the evening hours. Taking a look at the continental United States as a whole, you guys can see that there are some showers and possibly some thunderstorms that are moving through the Central Plains vicinity in the Kansas and Oklahoma, as well as some stuff behind along the front. So you're talking about showers going all the way through Wisconsin and the Great Lakes, some snow showers even behind it on the backside of this. You can see the Rockies have had a fair bit of snow over the past 24 hours, and beyond that, you can see the rain that is currently pushing off the coastline of Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Cape Cod is still getting some rain, but that should all pass within the next couple of hours. So with all that being said, let's move on straight into the severe weather possibilities for the next several days. So at this point, we are going to run through Friday's threat of severe weather as quickly as we can here because there's a lot to talk about in this video. So we're looking at the HRRR here if you want to refer to times there at the top left of your screen in Eastern Daylight Time. Daylight, we have passed daylight savings. Love to see that. So as you get into the morning hours on Friday, you can see a lot of showers and thunderstorms overspreading the Mississippi River Valley into Mississippi from what's going to be tonight's activity across the southern states. So this is going to push off through the early morning hours, which is going to make it pretty difficult for a lot of sustained activity to form in the afternoon hours. Now, that being said, anything in this band, anything in this certain area that can manage to stay discrete in nature. So what we mean by discrete in nature is it has its own structure and it has its own thunderstorm development, and will have the chance to produce some strong thunderstorm impacts. If any of these storms can manage to stay discrete, they will have the chance to produce some significant tornadoes. And we will look in a second. There is a enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5 risk in effect for Friday, so that's also something to bear in mind if you guys are in this general area. But mostly as you get into the afternoon, a few cells start to But as you look into the afternoon, a few cells start to fire off across the Alabama area into the late afternoon to evening hours and push off. So there's going to be a very, very conditional threat for severe weather tomorrow, but it is highlighted in the level 3 risk that we will see here in a second. And if you guys are in really any of the areas in the deep south, you do need to be watching out for that possibility that you could see some strong to severe thunderstorms tomorrow in your late afternoon, and early evening. Taking a look at tomorrow's risk, there is also a level 2 threat across the Mississippi Valley up by Kentucky and Tennessee. So let's take a look at that. And you can see you get the same activity of some strong showers and thunderstorms in the morning hours pushing through from last night's activity. And then you start to see some thunderstorms that fire off, and maybe even a couple supercells as you get into the southern Kentucky area, southwest Kentucky area near the Paducah vicinity. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Now, these storms are also going to have to stay discrete in nature if they want to be able to produce any severe hazards, but this looks a lot better presented than the stuff does in the south. So particularly if you guys are in the western half of Kentucky, you guys need to be watching out for some possible tornadic activity associated with severe weather tomorrow, as it looks like there are storms that are able to stay discrete in nature across western Kentucky. Taking a look at the SPC's outlook that they do have for tomorrow, you can see the slight risk extends all the way up into the southern Indiana areas, particularly that area of western Kentucky that I just highlighted that has the potential to produce some significant tornadoes tomorrow, in my honest opinion. That enhanced risk that covers the areas of Mobile and Pensacola, with the possibility for strong tornadoes down there with any activity that remains discrete. You also do have the threat for damaging winds widespread across this risk, spanning all the way up from the Gulf Coast into the southern Illinois and Indiana areas. And you will also have the potential to see some significant hail along this same area. Taking a look at the tornado threat for tomorrow, you do see that 10% hatched risk, which would indicate the possibility for significant tornadoes highlighted there for the for the Gulf Coast states. Again, that is also very conditional, and you do have the 5% that spans all the way up from the Gulf Coast into the southern Illinois and Indiana areas. So that particular area of western Kentucky, if any activity remains discrete, those thunderstorms will have the chance to produce strong tornadoes, and your 2% does extend into central Ohio, west into the central Missouri and Arkansas areas, and then east into the Atlantic coastal areas of the Carolinas. Taking a look at your damaging wind threat, you do have a level 2 risk at a 15% for this same area that is in the slight risk, so nothing out of the ordinary, as this is going to be tied to the widespread thunderstorm activity that moves on through. And then this interesting part with the large hail possibilities, you see this hatched risk, the hatched 15% risk across the western areas of Kentucky. That's going to be important if any of those supercells actually manage to get discrete in that general environment. Not only are you going to have the chance for tornadoes, but for significant damaging hail as well, and upwards of 2 inches in diameter within 25 miles of those areas of western Kentucky. So it's very important that you guys are bearing that in mind. If you guys are in that general vicinity, traveling through it, it's very important that you guys are weather aware tomorrow. Now, we're going to change gears and talk about the threat that Saturday does have in store for us, as the thunderstorms that move through the western Kentucky area taper off into a whole new threat on Saturday. So this is the early morning Saturday hours. You can see that there are some showers and thunderstorms that are pushing through the southern states, remnants of the last couple of nights. But as you get further on into the day, there are a few thunderstorms that pop up across the Pennsylvania and New York areas. So that would be including the State College vicinity, Rochester, farther west of Binghamton. So even the DC area that is going to be able to see some thunderstorms. So there is a very under the radar, so to speak, threat for severe weather, particularly as you get further north on Saturday. So the farther north you get, the more isolated and conditional your chances are going to be, but there could be the threat for some damaging winds and maybe even a tornado or two if storms hold themselves up correctly given the vertical wind profiles. Taking a look at a sounding off the NAM 3 kilometer, you guys do see that there is a little bit of a tornado threat, but it's mostly a damaging wind threat. So you guys see the curvature in the photographs that would suggest that there is the potential to see some significant thunderstorm development, whether that be to the tone of damaging winds or something else entirely. And you can see the blue line indicated here in the storm motion. These storms would be moving to the north and east at a fairly rapid rate, probably about 40 miles per hour is what you're looking at there. So, really an isolated threat, very conditional. Like I said, if it forms, it forms, and if it doesn't, it probably won't. As you can see here, the temperatures aren't exactly all that conducive for severe weather activity, but there is a fair amount of surface-based cape for the area in this general time frame. You can see there is a good amount of shear, which will help the thunderstorms mature if they do happen to form and get out in front of the cold front. So very conditional, but very possible that we could see some damaging winds across western Pennsylvania and western New York. As you get further south, you guys can see that it does get a lot better in terms of general conditions. So not only are your temperatures in the dews and the surface temperatures about 10 degrees higher or more, but you also do have faster storm motion as well as a little bit more curvature in the hodograph. More helicity, more shear in the upper levels, a lot more cape as well because you're getting a lot more heating. This is in the Virginia area, so there is going to be the potential across the East Coast really on Saturday for some thunderstorm development, widespread. And you guys can see even on the skew tees here, see the moisture and the surface temperatures colliding pretty much as you get to about 1 kilometer, and then they split off, which would be very good for organized thunderstorm development, as that allows the storms to really sustain at and above that 1 kilometer level. Additionally, you can see there is a little bit of veering in the lower portions of the atmosphere on this, so that would suggest that there would be a brief tornado threat associated with this, but don't expect this to be widespread tornadoes. This isn't going to be like Friday's threat or even Tuesday's threat. Both taking place in the south. So really highlighted on Saturday is the potential for some damaging wind gusts really across the East Coast as you get all the way from the southern states all the way up north. Going back to what I said a minute ago about temperatures being the better spot for thunderstorm development, taking a look at this as you get into the day on Saturday, look at how the East Coast heats up south of the Pennsylvania border, even the Virginia area and the Maryland area getting into the 70s. So, like I said, along this corridor, you will have the threat for damaging wind gusts and maybe a brief tornado, but this is where the majority of the threat's likely going to sit, and I like Virginia as a hot spot for this general risk on Saturday. Pardon me. So there is also the possibility the models are running cold. They are running a little bit cold on the stuff for the next couple of days, but not really going to take that as much of a factor right now. This is a level 2 risk that is going to exist all the way from the southern portions of the United States into Florida, all the way up through the Delaware area and the southern Pennsylvania area. So that could be adjusted over the next couple of days, and I will have more on that on my Twitter fairly frequently. So link will be below if you want to follow me on Twitter and keep up with me there as well. Dew points you guys can see at the same time frame are about in the mid to upper 60s. Pretty widespread, again, south of the Pennsylvania border. You do crack 60 if you are in southeastern Pennsylvania, but you don't even get close to cracking 60 if you're in farther areas up north. Even if you get into New Jersey, you're barely cracking 55. So as you get farther north, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for thunderstorms to produce, but again, like I said, it's a very conditional thing, and if they produce, they will likely have the environment to produce some damaging wind gusts, pretty widespread. Taking a look at the surface-based Cape, again at this 5 p.m. time frame, you can see a widespread corridor all the way from Florida up into New York, which is going to be your area where thunderstorms are going to develop. So you see an area of widespread 1,000 joules per kilogram of Cape, ranging all the way up from Rochester down through Jacksonville and even Tallahassee. So that's where your thunderstorms are going to be developing. You can see higher areas possibly even cracking 2,000 as you get into the Maryland, Virginia areas, and then down south into the Carolinas. So that's where your stronger thunderstorm development is going to be, and your more organized thunderstorm development most likely. But the general point to grasp here is that there is a widespread corridor of pretty high Cape for this time frame for the East Coast. So something to bear in mind if you are traveling up and down that area on Saturday. And again, I will have more information that becomes available on my Twitter, so follow me there to keep up with me and to keep up with all the severe weather information that you need to know when I'm not posting videos. Taking a look at what Sunday's going to have in store, we're going to have a little bit of a day of peace and calm, finally, for the continental United States. Maybe a little bit of snow in the Appalachians, maybe a little bit of rain on the extremities of the East Coast, but Sunday's really going to be a peaceful day across the country, which is good because we're going to transition right back into an active severe weather phase coming for Monday, so let's get right to the information on that. So shifting through the day on Sunday, we can see that a trough does start to take place over the western, or rather the eastern portions of the Rockies, really ejecting out of the Colorado vicinity and the New Mexico area. That's going to produce a strong storm system that moves across the southern United States that will have the threat to produce some severe weather widespread. But as that pushes off, you can see that not only does the trough weaken, but a second one forms, and you can see that there's going to be a significant front along this. So if we take a look further at the 3-hour precip, you can see where the front exactly is located and where the actual weather will take place. So it's a lot of Texas and Oklahoma that's going to be seeing this brunt of the severe weather, going to be a very large hail threat, and I will get into that. And then eventually in the next day, you can see the Ozarks start to get a little bit of that as well before it pushes off towards the north and east. So there is going to be the significant threat of severe weather, and now we will go into a little bit more detail on it. About how this is high leverage, as well as has the possibility to not do as much as really is being anticipated. And let's go right to the outlooks to figure out exactly what we are trying to expect. So taking a look at the day 5 risk for severe weather, you do see that there is actually a pretty rare 30% area outlined for the areas of Waco, Killeen, College Station. So the SBC does have enough confidence to say that there is going to be a pretty widespread amount of severe weather across the Texas area going into the day on, this is going to be Monday. It took me a minute. And then eventually, as you get into the day 6 time frame, you can see that there is a 15%, which would be equivalent to a level 2 risk for the southern states, including the Ozarks, the Mississippi River vicinity. And then as you get into the day 7 risk, which is basically the remnants of all of this, you can see there is another 15% for Alabama, Georgia, as well as the panhandle of Florida. So that one's a little bit less significant. That one's mostly just the remnants of all of this. That's kind of a safety. The SBC has to do this type of thing, where you have the remnants of a significant severe weather day, and you will have the threat for damaging winds and a brief tornado on the back end of it. Where we're not really going to analyze Wednesday as much, so I'll just get it out of the front now. Wednesday is really going to be the remnants of everything that happens on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is going to have the possibility for some damaging winds, as well as possibly a tornado or two along the cold front as this pushes off towards the north and east. This is going to start to become a nor'easter type of system for these for the northern United States, as well as the severe weather on the southern end, but a little bit less significant extent of severe weather on the southern end. But the main bit right now to keep in mind is that there is the 30% chance for severe weather. They're expecting widespread significant hail to take place over the east central Texas area, just south of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area. So that's something to bear in mind if you guys are in those areas, possibly even getting towards the Shreveport vicinity, the 15% extending all the way out into Houston, San Antonio, Dallas-Fort Worth, as well as Shreveport, even getting into the eastern Louisiana areas. So the level 3 risk, 30% outlined in the orange. Level 2 risk, the 15% outlined in the yellow. Let's kind of figure out how that's all going to translate as you get into the day on Monday. So taking a look at the day on Monday in terms of the surface temperatures that we're going to be expecting, again, refer to the top left if you want to know the time frame in Eastern Daylight Time. As you get into the afternoon, temperatures heat up relatively nicely in the severe weather risk area, particularly into the central portions of Texas. You get near 80 across the Dallas area, and otherwise upper 70s across most of the region, which is going to be very conducive for thunderstorm development. In addition, the temperatures do hold themselves at a reasonable enough level to produce some overtime severe weather, particularly as you get farther east as well. So you can see as you get into the overnight hours, particularly in morning hours on Tuesday, look at these 70s that are really taking over the Louisiana areas and possibly even into southern Mississippi. So that's really going to be your area for extended severe weather that night. And then you're going to have the additional threat for more severe weather as you get into the day then. Taking a look at the dews for this same time frame, you can see as you get into the day on Monday, there is a very evident cold front that pushes through the central Texas area as you get into the Fort Worth area, Houston area, really eastern Texas as a whole. So your dews are getting into the upper 60s, lower 70s, but this is going to be a very middle of the day type event for Texas, particularly as you're seeing the cold front move through rather quickly. So thunderstorms are going to develop and then quickly be out. So there is going to be the threat, like I said, again, for some very large hail, as well as possibly a few tornadoes as you get into the East Texas area. Farther along into Tuesday, you can see the dew points get much better for the Mississippi River Valley, which is kind of interesting considering you'd expect it to be a little bit better across Texas. But no, the moisture influx is really going to help the dew points across the Gulf Coast states. So you see upper 60s, lower 70s, particularly along the Mississippi River. And then as you push further east, as you progress through the day, they drop off a little bit, but still in the 60s. So definitely enough to produce some severe weather extended through the overnight hours of Monday and Tuesday, and then eventually Tuesday into Wednesday as well, like I already mentioned. Taking a look as we get into the day on Monday at the possible low-level shear that could exist. Look at all of the shear that exists out in front of the storm system itself, and then behind it as you're getting this activity of severe weather across eastern Texas. So whole lot of shear that's going to be really enhancing the storms, driving that possible tornado threat, as well as the damaging wind threat, as well as the significant hail threat, as updrafts are going to be holding a lot of ice crystals in this general area. That took me a minute. So that's very important to note as well, that there is enhanced shear present for this, to the tone of 50-60 knots of low-level shear present for not only Tuesday's threat, but then as you look, or rather Monday's threat, but as you look into Tuesday's threat, you can see that that shear is also enhanced across those portions of the Mississippi River Valley, including Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. Taking a look at the amount of rainfall that we could see from all of this, you can see that there's a lot of precip that does exist over the central plains. Not as much in the southern area, as the storms down there aren't going to be as much of rainmakers as they are hailmakers, although hail is frozen rain. But a lot more rain does exist over the eastern portion of the two-day risk, particularly as you get farther north into the Kentucky and Tennessee area, where it's going to be mostly rain and a lot of rain and even more rain, if I didn't already mention that there's going to be a lot of rain there. So that's really the main threat to watch there. You can see some flash flooding across the areas of northern Tennessee, including Nashville, possibly into Paducah. They do also get a lot of rain to the tone of 3, possibly even 4 or 5 inches. Taking a look at the sounding that we have from the GFS possibly for Monday, actually, you can see that it's a little bit disorganized. So you can see that there is the hodograph pointing in northeastward storm motion, very looping, very large, which indicates more so hail than anything else. This particular hodograph size indicates more hail than anything else. Also see a lot of shear that is present that's going to help the updrafts of these storms contain all that hail. A lot of helicity that's going to enhance the damaging wind threat, and a modest amount of CAPE for Texas for this time area. So this is why I say that it's a little bit more of a large hail threat, more so than a tornado threat, or even a damaging wind threat for that matter. Taking a look at a sounding that you have for Tuesday, you can see this is a lot more tornadic, so you can see there's a lot of that northeastward storm motion. More of a looping hodograph, smaller hodograph, which would help organization. Same amount of shear, a little bit less helicity, which would help more so the organization of storms more than anything, because it doesn't mean they're going to go directly damaging wind threat immediately. You can also see the lapse rates indicating the colder temperatures up in the atmosphere. Go to the mid-levels, mediocre at the surface. So that's really what we're going to have to watch over the next couple of days as we start to get into the convection allowing model time phase. So that's really where we're going to be ironing out all the kinks that there are to know about this, and all the specifics that we can really figure out about this as we get into the day on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll know a lot more by about Saturday, Sunday, even Monday. It would be a good time to know that we're really going to have this threat set in stone. So I hope you guys did enjoy the severe weather discussion and find it informative. Again, this is really a widespread thing that we're going to be talking about over the next week or so. So there's the tornado possibility that goes on for Friday, very conditional across the south, but could see some pretty significant tornadoes in the northern states as well, in the northern states of the risk as well, including Kentucky and Tennessee. We also have this threat on Saturday that's going to be very isolated, very conditional, but you could see some damaging winds and possibly some isolated tornadoes along the cold front, all up and down the East Coast, all the way from Florida up through New York. And then Monday and Tuesday and even Wednesday, you get the threat for some damaging winds, significant hail, and some possibly significant tornadoes as you get across that general time frame. So from Monday all the way through Wednesday morning into the afternoon, you're going to be talking about severe weather events for the South. Areas like Oklahoma City, Dallas, San Antonio, Jackson, New Orleans, Shreveport, Birmingham, Atlanta, all going to be involved in this. So stay tuned to know more information. A possible video that could come out this weekend when we know a little bit more about the whole situation that is to come, and know more that we maybe don't know now about how to prepare, exactly what the threat is going to be, so on and so forth. But I do ask, if you guys did enjoy this, please be sure to leave a like rating on the video. Helps me get onto more people's channels via the algorithm. Subscribe if you are new and enjoy the content. Click the notification bell if you guys want to be notified every time I post a new severe weather video or go live, because I do that too. I used to only do that, and now I do videos as well. So that's really going to do it for me. So again, pretty widespread, significant severe weather threat that we're going to have over the next couple of days. So be weather aware if you're in the southern states, as well as even the Mississippi River states, all the way up to Kentucky and Tennessee. So that's really going to do it for me. My name is Morgan J. Fold. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.